Shalom Bamidbar Tavshin Pei Daled. As we know, we're recording our Nesivos Shalom weekly share here, not just for Shalom Bamidbar. We're also recording tonight our share for Chag HaShavuos. This is the last year before the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Tonight is also Rosh Chodesh. Tonight is Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Pretty unbelievable that how far in the year we've come. And before we turn around, it's past Shavuos. And this Shabbos is the final Shabbos of the Sefira. And we've spoken over the past few weeks. We've spoken about the inyan of the Shabbosos at the Sefira, during the Sefira. But this Shabbos is the Shabbos before the Yom Tov of Shavuos. And really, aside from it just being in time, the Shabbos before Yom Tov, Shabbos is actually a very big part and a very important theme for the Yom Tov of Shavuos too. And we're going to explain the Gemara, the Shabbos, Daf Pei Vav Amud Aleph. The Gemara tells us, the Gemara there speaks about whether Shavuos was on the 6th of Sivan, the 7th of Sivan. The Gemara says that according to everybody, whether you say Shavuos was this day or that day, the Gemara says, U'dekulei alma the Shabbos nitna Torah. Everybody admits and everybody says that the day that the Torah was given on Shabbos. Now, it's just a difference of opinion whether it was given on the 6th of Sivan or the 7th of Sivan. But everybody, whichever one it is, everyone says that the Torah was given on Shabbos. And if that is the fact, it certainly tells us that Kabbalah HaTorah derives something special from Shabbos. In other words, before, there are certain things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to have. If you read the Psukim in the Torah, we're going to learn it on Shavuos morning, the whole Parsha and Parshas Yisroi about Kabbalah HaTorah. There are certain things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to have before we received the Torah. And Hashem gave us some instructions as to what we need to do and what we need to be in order to receive the Torah. And really, that message is very important because the same instructions and the same things would apply for every one of us today, as we've mentioned so much over the years, that when we go about the Yom Tovim and when we have the Yom Tovim, they're not some sort of historical event, historical date in the past. The Kabbalah HaTorah that we had then, a few thousand years ago, Kabbalah HaTorah comes around every single year. And every year, those same hashpos, any person who wants to be makabel the Torah and keep the Torah in a better way, this is the opportunity when it comes this week and we pass Rosh Chodesh and we have the Shloshis Yemei Agbola and Erev Shavuos and the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Every one of us has that same chance to be makabel the Torah as they did a couple thousand years ago at Har Sinai. But how do we go about being makabel the Torah? We go about by doing the same things, following the same instructions that Hashem gave us back then. And the pasuk tells us in the parsha, "V'atem tiyu li mamleches koyanim v'goy kadosh." Hashem tells us before Kabbalah HaTorah that we need to be a mamleches koyanim and a goy kadosh. And Nesivos Shalom tells us that this pasuk is letting us know, and it teaches us that the Torah can only be received by someone who already behaves like a Yid. The Torah before Kabbalah HaTorah, before that S.S.S. tells us about being mamleches koyanim and goy kadosh, and the Nesivos Shalom tells us that those were our instructions back then, and they are instructions today too. That the Torah is only given to somebody who acts like a Jew. And what does it mean to act like a Jew? So the Torah tells us that behaving like a Jew, what does it mean? It means being Mamleches Koyanim, V'goy Kodosh, that your entire being is one of Kedusha. And that is really what the words in the Pasuk of Goy Kodosh, that is what those words mean. Because a person might think that my nefesh will be Kodosh, my ruach, nefesh, ruach, and neshama, that will be Kodosh, and that's good enough. But no, maybe my guf, maybe my body, maybe the way I act physically, that doesn't have to be. Comes the Torah and tells us the Goy Kodosh, which means that it encompasses every single part of us. In other words, that our mind has to be Kodosh with deos and hashkafos that are correct. We have to be careful what we think about and what our mind thinks about and the things and the people that we follow. Your heart has to be Kodosh with desires that are holy also. That part of you has to be Kodosh. And last but not least, so too a person's guf, a person's body and limbs should behave with Kedusha too. We have to follow all the things that the Torah wants us to seek after. Not the things that are Yetzer Hara and our taivas push us towards. So Goy Kodosh, the words Goy Kodosh in the Pasuk mean every part of a person. As the Pasuk says, Va'anshe Kodesh Tiyum Li, Va'anshe Kodesh means that the Anshe Kodesh, people. The word Anshe means you should be holy people. What encompasses a person? Every part of a person, from top to bottom, whether it's your mind, your heart, your body. But Anshe Kodesh, you have to be looked at, you have to be perceived as a person of holiness, the entire person. So now that the Nesivos Shalom let us know this, the question is, how does a person go about that? It's a very easy thing to come out and say everybody has to be Kadosh, and your body has to be Kadosh, and your mind has to be Kadosh, but of course it's easier said than done. What are some keys? How do we go about turning ourselves into the type of person that is eligible and ready for a Kabbalah's HaTorah? We know that the nature and tendencies of people are always pulling us in the other direction. A person is born with the Yetzer Hara. The world around us is full of taivas and things that draw us away from Ruchnias, that draw us away from Kedusha. All of this is pulling us in the other direction. So it's a very easy thing to say, you should act like a Jew. You should be a Goy Kodesh. But how exactly do we accomplish that when we're surrounded with so many things that are the antithesis to that theme? There are so many things that draw a person away from Kedusha. And as we know, we've said many times, that really every Hana of Gashmias is Keneged what we are striving to do over here. Everything of Gashmias that we go after is pushing back against what we really want to do. So says in Nesivos Shalom that the answer is that we have something that as Jews, we have a secret weapon. And that secret weapon is called Shabbos Kodesh. And Shabbos Kodesh helps you out with so many things, including Kabbalas HaTorah. Hashem, as we know, and we've said many times, does not ask any person to be or to do anything that is impossible. If Hashem asks you to do it, then He gives you a way to do it. If Hashem tells us that we should, Va'anshe Kodesh Tiyum Li, that we should be Mamleches Koyanim Goy Kodosh in order to be Makabel the Torah, Hashem is not asking us for something that we can't do. And not only that, Hashem is giving us the help and the tools needed to do it. And the Shalom tells us that the tool that is most helpful to us, Hashem gave us Shabbos in order for us to have the tools and the ability to attain Kedusha. As the Reishis Chachma says, Reishis Chachma tells us, we say in the davening Friday night, we say in the Kiddush Friday night, Vayivorach Elokim es Yom HaShvi'i. What are the next words? Vayikadesh Oisai. Hashem put Kedusha inherently. There is Kedusha in Shabbos. That if you want to attain Kedusha, you begin by keeping the Shabbos Kodesh the way that you should. As we've said many times from the Kabrina Rav, Zechusi Yagan Aleinu, and he says that in the words also that we say in Kiddush, Techila Lemikroi Kodesh, that Shabbos, if a person wants to begin to have Kedusha, to raise their level of Kedusha, that Shabbos is Techila Lemikroi Kodesh, of anything that's going to be called, anything that's going to have Kedusha, Techila, we begin with Shabbos. That things in life also, besides that, there are things in life that tell us this point also. You know that when a carbon has to be brought, so the pasuk tells us that the carbon has to live through, before you bring an animal for a carbon, it has to be at least a week alive. An animal has to be at least a week. What does that tell you? It tells you that in order for a carbon to be good, it has to go through a Shabbos Kodesh. You know a bris. A bris is when a person gets a bris at 8 days old. 8 days old means that a baby, had to have gone through a Shabbos. Because once a person goes through a Shabbos, you are a different level of Kedusha. You're ready for much, much greater things. Al pi derech hateva, according to the laws of, so to speak, nature, we cannot reach Kedusha. We can't do it on our own, as we've also learned from the Nesivos Shalom, that Kedusha requires siyata d'shmaya and help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's almost just about impossible to attain a level of Kedusha without Hashem helping you. But the koyach of Shabbos, and what we could get from the Shabbos, that is l'mayla miderach hateva. Al pi derech hateva, it's very hard to attain Kedusha. But the koyach of Shabbos, which is l'mayla miderach hateva, that raises our level and turns us into different people. So Chazal tell us in the Gemara that we began with, Chazal tell us in the Gemara that everyone, no matter which date of the month you say Kabbalah Torah was, everyone holds that the Shabbos nitna Torah, that the day of Torah, the day of the week that the Torah was given, that was on Shabbos. That Kabbalah Torah was with the koyach of Shabbos, that it came with Shabbos, that Shabbos got us to be Mamleches Koyanim, the Goy Kodesh. And that is why, according to some Moshe Rabbeinu, we know Moshe Rabbeinu added a day before Kabbalah Torah, so it should be on Shabbos, and it should come out on Shabbos. And this is something we have to keep in mind during this Shabbos of Parshas Bamidbar, the last Shabbos before the Yontiv of Shavuos, the last Shabbos before Kabbalah Torah. And Nesivos Shalom is telling us that if we use this Shabbos, we come to Shabbos, we don't come in a rush. We don't run to shul the last second. We come in, we sit down, you could say Hoidu, you could say Shir Hashirim, whatever your minhag is, whatever you want to do, to say Karbanos, but to sit down, to learn something, to come in with a calmness and understand what Shabbos is, to use it in the right way, to spend the right time, the right behavior around the Shabbos table, of course, to make sure not to speak Lashon Hara, not to speak Dvar B'Telem, to understand what the Kedusha of Shabbos is all about. And what we're learning is, it doesn't just help you for Shabbos. It turns you and I and every one of us into a different person. That's a requisite for Kabbalah Torah, Mamleches Koyanim, V'Goy Kodosh. We become holy people when we treat the Shabbos right, and the Shabbos becomes part of us. And that is a key that we're going to think about this Shabbos. We're going to come to the Shabbos. It's going to help us be Makabel Torah, and everybody here is going to be Zoicha this year to have a better Kabbalah Torah than they ever had before.